What is up, guys? So I was hoping that Mr. Comic Wonder would talk about more of Jane and how she became the mighty Thor, or as Thor will say, Mighty Thor. Yeah. So it says on his video how Jane becomes Thor is worthy, and men's can pronounce that Thor, Love and Thunder. So let's see what let's see what he dug up, and maybe he can enlighten me on how how did Jane became Mighty Thor. Although I know he's gonna provide information about that. I want Marvel to showcase it in the movie. You know what I mean? So, let's see what he has to say.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Cosmic Wonder, where we talk all things Marvel and MCU. I'm your host, Warren Thompson, and yesterday we finally got the full official trailer for Thor, Love and Thunder, including our first look at Christian Bale as Gorr the God Butcher. And we got an even better look at Jane Foster's The Mighty Thor. Yesterday I did a breakdown of it. You can check it out on the channel. But there was so much in this trailer that I'm sure I'll be doing multiple videos about it this week and the weeks to come. Like, for example, did you notice that when Zeus flicks Thor's clothes off, he has tattoos on his back now? And one tattoo that he seemingly has in particular is a giant tattoo of Loki's horns, and it says R.I.P. Loki above it. I'm not expecting a Loki cameo in this movie, but I would sure love for him to show up. But one thing this trailer did give us, like I mentioned, was a better look at Jane Foster's Thor. But we did not learn how exactly she becomes Thor yet, and what exactly makes her worthy to lift and wield Mjolnir, and how did it get put back together? Taika Waititi, the director of Thor Ragnarok and of course Thor Love and Thunder, has recently come out and talked about the story of Jane Foster in the MCU versus the comics. And he says that they stick pretty true to her cancer storyline from the Mighty Thor comics. So we have a little bit of an idea of what this story is going to be like. And I have a personal theory on how I think Jane Foster could have mended Mjolnir, became worthy to wield Mjolnir, but also has gotten cancer from it. And I'll be breaking down everything you need to know in this video. And of course, if you're new, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future Marvel videos.
What perspective he
thinks the story from the comics. This is how Jane Foster originally becomes the Mighty Thor, and how Thor actually becomes unworthy to lift Mjolnir. Now, I don't believe that is going to happen in the movie.
I hope not, because I'd be really pissed.
So he doesn't particularly need Mjolnir. But Thor becoming unworthy in the comics is a result of his encounter with Gorr the God Butcher, who of course is going to be the main villain in Thor Love and Thunder. So there is a connection there. Now, Gorr the God Butcher goes around slaying gods because he believes that gods do more harm than good. In Thor's run, he kills many gods with the all-black Necro Sword, and he almost kills Thor, but Thor defeats him. However, he is forever a changed man after this. In Original Sin, we learn how Gorr's beliefs affected Thor. Thor and the Avengers then go to the moon, where they confront Nick Fury, where Nick Fury whispers a secret in Thor's ear. It is later revealed that Nick Fury told Thor Gorr was right. This question leads to Thor questioning whether gods actually serve a purpose, or if they just cause more pain instead of answering prayers for help, and this lack of faith in himself and the gods make Thor unworthy. Now, I'm sure we'll get some of this in Thor Love and Thunder. Gorr's going to go around and he's going to talk about his purpose and why he hates the gods and thinks they're useless. And I'm sure Thor is going to question this just a little bit. However, I think Thor's had a pretty big change of heart over the past years, and he's grown a lot, and I don't think this will make him unworthy. But getting to Jane, in his place, Jane picks up the hammer and Mjolnir deems her worthy. Jane knows that there has to be a Thor, no matter what. There has to be somebody to protect others. It's Jane's dedication to this role that makes her worthy. She knows that other people, including other heroes like the Avengers, need her help. So without really questioning anything, she dives into action, another trait that makes her worthy. Then she encounters Thor and actually defeats him in combat. This also makes her worthy, but Thor also notes that she could have used this power for bad, but instead she used it to help others. And that's kind of the main story of Jane Foster. She wants to help others, and that's ultimately why she is worthy. But here's the story that's going to happen in the MCU. Eventually in the comics it is revealed that Jane Foster has cancer. And becoming Thor is kind of a double-bladed sword here. Whenever she picks up Mjolnir and becomes Thor, all of the cancer and toxins and basically anything bad that is inside of her is expunged from her body. Unfortunately, the chemotherapy is also expunged from her body as well. So unfortunately, Jane Foster being Thor is what ultimately leads her to dying. And yes, she does ultimately die in the comics. But even though she's dying being Thor, she chooses to be Thor because she wants to help people. And that is ultimately what makes Jane Foster worthy to lift Mjolnir and become the mighty Thor. Now, since Taika Waititi, the director, said they're going to stick pretty closely to this story, I'm assuming what I just mentioned is pretty much going to be the story of Jane Foster. We know that she's going to have cancer, but it looks like she's going to choose being Thor over not, because she'll have the opportunity to help people. And if you consider all of the events of the MCU so far that the humans have been through on Earth, you definitely know that Earth needs heroes. And I think Jane Foster especially knows this as good as anybody because of the events that she went through with Thor. Now, something that is also very interesting in the comics is that Mjolnir actually has a mind of its own sometimes. We learned that it's an actual entity that Odin kind of trapped and enchanted. That's a whole story of its own, but basically, at one point in the comics, Mjolnir can kind of think for itself. And this could be another reason why Mjolnir could think that Jane Foster is worthy, because I'm pretty sure Jane Foster is going to be the one to mend Mjolnir. Now, if we think about the last time that we saw Mjolnir, in our universe at least, not a Mjolnir from another universe, we saw our Mjolnir in Thor Ragnarok when Hela broke it. Now this spot where it was broken and Hela came back, where Odin died, is believed to be where New Asgard is now. Odin told Thor, Asgard is not a place, it's a people, Asgard could be here. Then after the events of Avengers Infinity War, Thor took the remaining Asgardians to that spot and created New Asgard. He then proceeded to become Bro Thor, but all seems to be well now. But remember, Jane Foster is a scientist. She's a world-leading astronomer. But keep in mind, she also monitors energy. This is how she originally came across Thor in the first film. And I'm assuming that when Odin died and Hela returned, there was probably a lot of energy happening there. Plus, not to mention, Heimdall summons the Bifrost for Thor and Loki there. There's a good chance that Jane Foster saw this and realized that it was probably Thor. So there is a chance that she would have went to that location to see what was happening. And that's where she probably found Mjolnir, crumbled in pieces. But remember, she's a scientist and pretty much genius. So from here, I believe that she collected all of the pieces of Mjolnir, took it back to a lab, and tried to put it back together. Now, throughout the MCU, we learned a little bit about Jane's career in Thor 1, Thor the Dark World. In Avengers 1, Coulson tells Thor that they hooked Jane up with a pretty sweet gig that had handsome pay. Then in Avengers Age of Ultron, where Thor and Tony Stark are bragging about their women, Thor says that Jane might get a Nobel Prize. So I'm thinking that Jane probably has the smarts and the means, meaning all the equipment, to mend Mjolnir. And I think that this might actually be a part of her being worthy enough to lift Mjolnir. Because like I said, Mjolnir sometimes kind of has a mind of its own. And Mjolnir might deem Jane worthy because she's the one that would repair Mjolnir. But a big question right now is, how exactly does Jane Foster get cancer? And could it be Mjolnir that actually gives her cancer?
And now, how did she become Thor? How exactly did she? Was it because she put the hammer in pieces together?
Metal. Also, not to
and of course she had cancer.
And Stormbreaker, he basically tells the Guardians that Stormbreaker would kill them if they ever tried to wield it. So clearly Uru metal isn't something really meant for humans to come in contact with. So it is definitely possible that while Jane is actually trying to reconstruct the hammer, it in turn actually gives her cancer. This would kind of fall in line with how her story goes in the comics, but not exactly be page for page. Jane knows that Thor is a hero and that he protects Earth and he protects Asgard and the other realms as well. So she would know that he would need Mjolnir to continue to do that. And despite the properties of Uru metal maybe being dangerous to her, she decides to try and fix it anyways because Thor needs his hammer. And that in turn would make her worthy enough to lift Mjolnir, transforming her into the mighty Thor that we're going to see in Thor, Love and Thunder. Let me know what you think about this theory in the comments down below. Do you think that this is what's going to happen in Thor, Love and Thunder, or do you have a different theory of your own? Be sure to let me know in the comments. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the latest Marvel news. For live updates,
Good theory, Cosmic Winter. Very good theory, as usual. You know, I mean, that was good perspective. And, you know, how she, she got cancer, possibly causing, to put back the Mjolnir back together, which I guess that was the title of the part of the video, MENDS MJOLNIR. Mjolnir. Okay. Now I got it right, because at first, when I first read it, I couldn't pronounce it, so. But, now I got it. It's Mjolnir. Mjolnir. There you go. But anyway, it's a good theory and good, you know, feedback of who Mighty Thor, or who Jane really, how did, what happened to Jane through those times in Thor, Ragnarok, and others, and the Infinity War and stuff like that. It's a very good theory, and I know in the comics that she actually had cancer and, chemo and, and that could possibly, when she was trying to put the Mjolnir back in place, it could possibly cause her to have cancer. So, and maybe that's how she was maybe worthy into becoming the Mighty Thor. If I could see something like that in the movie, I'd be okay. I just want them to show us. You know what I mean? Just show us how does she get her powers. You know what I mean? And I know that, she's a real well-known special scientist. I mean, she's really smart. I mean, we all seen that from Thor, and then Thor to the Dark World, so, if anybody that, especially if she still has feelings for Thor, if anybody that can, that can bring, put the Mjolnir back into place, it could possibly be her. So, I would be satisfied if they can come up with a story like that. If they can bring back at least like a backstory, like a flashback on how did she get her powers. You know what I mean? That's what I want to know. Like, how did she come? I want Marvel to explain to us and show us how did she became Thor, and did with her, having cancer and putting the Mjolnir back into place, did it make her became the Mighty Thor? That if that is the case, then okay, I can that would make sense, and it would totally make a little sense, I don't think she's as powerful as Thor though. I just hope they don't put it like that, but because Thor is that guy is an absolute freaking nature. That guy, it ain't, man. Like I said before, the only people that can take out Thanos on their own is Thor, Scarlet Witch, and the Captain Marvel. That's it. And I would have pulled up for Thor, obviously, because I love Thor. So, I just hope they show some of that on the movie. If they don't, I'll be really disappointed. I'll be honest with you. I'm gonna be really disappointed. But I have a feeling they probably will. At least a little bit, like a little feedback, a little back in time on what happened with Jane and how did she became Thor and stuff like that. So, so post your comments down below. Let me know, what do you guys think? What do you think of this whole, Jane becoming Mighty Thor? How do you guys think she got her powers? Let me know in the comment below. And if you enjoy my reaction to Comic Wonder, you can go ahead, hit the like button, subscribe, and share. And make sure you guys click on the notification bell so that way you guys can get more upcoming videos in the near future. And make sure you guys go ahead and check out Comic Wonder's video. He does really good breakdown of who each characters are, and trailers and stuff like that. He breaks down a lot of trailers and stuff as far as like Marvel goes. I don't know if he does DC, which I think he does. I'm not 100% sure on that. I don't think so, but correct me if I'm wrong. But I know he does a lot of Marvel stuff. So make sure you guys go ahead and check him out. I'll leave on a link on his YouTube page will be on the description down below. And if there's any videos requests you guys want me to check out, you can always just leave it on the comment section down below. If you have any questions for me, you guys leave it on the comment section as well, or you can email me at greatendzone97@gmail.com. Alright guys, well, until next time, peace out.